So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to our webinar this afternoon, looking at our 2024 Meeting Room of the Future results. For those who haven't joined before, you will notice we do put you all on mute. That's because we record the session, which I will forward to you all afterwards. And we do encourage you all, please to use your chat box at the bottom of your screens for any questions. And Mark will take questions throughout the session, so please pop those in the chat. As I say, we do record the session. I will send it to you all following the webinar. And along with all our webinars, it is available and will be available on the IACC YouTube channel and the IACC webinar on demand page. So with that, no further ado, I'll hand you over to our presenter today, Mr. Mark Cooper. Thanks, Mark.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kate. And yeah, once again, hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is always a very special moment in the year after all the work that our volunteer groups and our partners put in. And we publish IACC Meeting Room of the Future, the weeks afterwards, getting to share it in our different environments is so special. And I'm looking forward today to sharing with you the results of this year's survey and giving you some background and context around that. It's a small but mighty group today, so please do put any questions that you have in the chat box, and we will allocate some time at the end. Today's webinar will be a little over 40 minutes in duration, and I'll make sure that we leave some time there. And really just to say, I put the report link into the chat box just a moment ago to both Meeting Room of the Future report, and also I'll mention the recent IACC AI for Sales and Marketing in Venues report as well. And you can take a look at that. There's far, far more in there than I'm going to be able to share in 40 minutes. I will take this opportunity to say that IACC's Meeting Room of the Future report could not happen without the incredible volunteers that we have around the world, both our global task force, which are listed in the report, but then importantly, our financial partners. These are the organizations you can see across the bottom there who step up and donate to IACC to support all of the efforts in the research financially. And without them, we really couldn't do the amazing work that we do each year. We also have a great list and team of research partners out there. So these are the associations like MPI that you see across the top, the SHFM, Society for Hospitality and Food Management, Svenska Möten, Swedish Meetings, Danska Conference Centres, and there are others as well you'll see in the report. And they've been awesome as well in helping us really get the strength of depth, collaboration and participation in the report. So everyone involved, if you're on the call today, we really do appreciate you helping us make it happen. My name's Mark Cooper from IACC. I've had the pleasure of being there right at the beginning of when Meeting Room of the Future came about, and it was in 2017 when this idea was first born. And I think it's worth taking a moment just to give consideration to the report and why it's so unique. There are many industry research reports out there for the meetings industry, the hospitality industry, the wider conference and business events industry. But actually back in 2017, we realized a lot of these reports were either focused on very large conventions, on business travel, on other areas, and not in the area that I call small to mid-sized meeting venues, which is, of course, where many of the IACC properties and venues reside. We're focused on those meetings of under 200. Quite often, the majority of meetings that we have at our venues are under 100, or in the 10s or in the 20s. And it's a very unique collection and ability to be able to do dynamic things when you work with smaller groups that maybe you can't with larger groups. And that's why Meeting Room of the Future is so important. I'm just going to take a quick moment now to turn off my camera so that you can be fully focused on the report. And I will come back on camera when we've got any questions. Kate, please let me know if we do get any that come up. But without further ado, let's jump into this year's report. And I will give you an overview of the report, how it comes together. I'll also be then diving into the main areas of this 60-page report, which is fulfilling meeting objectives, the physical venue characteristics, how technology is evolving around the needs of our clients, and also culinary and beverage trends. And then we will be touching at various different points in the points above around ethical, sustainable venue sourcing, health, well-being, everything that sits under that magical but important corporate social responsibility banner as well, which, as I say, affects everything that we do. So why is Meeting Room of the Future report as widely downloaded and respected in the industry as it is? And it's quite simple, really. IACC, we're in this very fortunate position that we are not only connected to the world's most entrepreneurial, forward-thinking venues and around the world, but also the suppliers. IACC represents the top 1% of venues, but it also engages with the top 1% of suppliers, those who are at the cutting edge of research, development, defining those products and services to help us remain at that cutting edge of innovation and creativity. We also have long-standing, really strong relationships with industry experts, and they're people like Tracy Stuckrath that you see with a big beaming smile in the top right-hand corner, who is really the pivotal food, nutrition, health and well-being expert for the meetings industry, as well as others as it relates to IT, as it relates to food and beverage trends, as it relates to meeting room design and architecture. And then lastly, of course, those that sit within the meeting planner area as well. Meeting planners are so important for us. And each year, IACC is either going out with its questionnaire and asking meeting planners what their opinions are, or we are asking our venues and our suppliers. And this year, we'll be looking at the research results that we've had from going out to 170 venues around 3 continents around the world. And we'll be looking at how this survey compares to back in 2020. But then also we'll be looking at how there are differences from the last time we did this survey as it relates to our meeting planner community. And our meeting planner community give us their perspective, what they want to see from venues, what frustrate them with venues. And then we've always got one eye, one lens looking at, when we look at the reports of what our venues are telling us, to make sure, are we aligned with what we think is important? Because if we're not, then, and we don't have that alignment, then we have a mismatch of client expectations coming to our venue or attendee expectations and what we're delivering as facilities and services at venues. And then last but not least, when we ask our venues or our meeting planners to give us their views on the meetings that they're staging or hosting, we want them to do so over the spectrum of corporate events, association events, government meetings, every type of business event that takes place. We want to get that perspective, and only on those groups of less than 200. So I gave you a breakdown of the main 4 to 5 areas that we'll be covering today. And first of all, we're going to head in now to venue priorities and experience creation. It's quite a big part of the report. In there, we're looking at things like millennial behaviors, experiential meetings, how fostering of organic interactions is the real big thing at the moment. On-site and off-site activities, how people are achieving the above. And one of the important areas this year that's been discussed is the balancing of budget with quality, and we will touch upon that. So as we head into that area around venue priorities and experience creation, what we've seen is, and what's been reported, are venues are offering a strong creative offer outside of their core services. It is no longer the role of the venue just to look after people in relation to the meeting rooms, the food and beverage, the technology, the accommodation. It is about bringing the experiences in. And really everything from branding, signage, to receptions, to entertainment. These are all part of the offer, an overall offer that the venue and the team and the leadership team are influencing. And just one comment that I put into the report from all the conversations that I have with meeting planners, with the industry, is that, you know, venues are exploring the need to actually heighten these experiences further. And, you know, expect to see more really strategic alliances with offsite facilities that can provide group experiences, and maybe even offering things through the venue booking that ordinarily the client wouldn't be able to get if they just went to those outside attractions. Now, MPI is one of those strategic partners that are so important to us and have been for the last 12 years with IACC, and their highly respected meetings outlook report reflects a shift towards environments that foster organic interactions. Take a look at the report if this interests you. Comments by Jessie States, who's head of the MPI Academy. She really does believe in that fact that, you know, unique networking experiences are even more essential components to successful meetings today than they were before, and they were important before. It's just heightening every year. More and more is expected from this important area. And Jessie and MPI represent the biggest, most significant gathering of meeting planners worldwide, over 20,000. So they've got their finger firmly on the pulse when it comes to what meeting planners want for their attendees when they come. And today, just another example from the report, which I think is so pertinent, is that, you know, a conference that's focused on all the conditions for a healthy brain, health and well-being, about getting that balance between relaxation, movement, reflection, play, focus, socializing, and of course sleep when it's a residential event as well, are, you know, when we consider our role as a venue in the environments that we're creating, are we doing everything that we possibly can in relation to providing an environment for that? And when I talk to our meeting planner community as well, which I do very often, and I will be running a similar webinar to this on Monday for MPI, I'm asking the question of meeting planners. Are you evaluating venues through the lens of these different areas that they've got to be excellent in, or are you just hoping that that venue will provide that sort of background? One of the other key highlights as well, as we look to creating even more memorable experiences, is this idea as well of creating mystery elements. Now, what's a mystery element? It's something that the attendee didn't expect to come. It's something that the meeting planner maybe didn't see coming as well. And it can be anything from a special addition to the afternoon refreshment break that wasn't there the day before, right the way through to a venue actually creating secret areas within it. And I know this sounds a bit crazy, but believe you me, it's happening. Little nooks and crannies where people can just discover, hang out, have one-on-one conversations, maybe a bit quirky, maybe have got something that, you know, they really weren't expecting in terms of decor. You know, a mystery element to a meeting is something that really does feed that creating exceptional memories for an event. And we've all had it when we've been at a restaurant and all of a sudden between courses something was put down that you just had no idea was coming. Creates a memory. It heightens the experience. And it's interesting, this is being talked about more and more in the industry, but for us as venue operators, when asking that question of the research this year, there still is a great number of venues that are not offering that. So 80% are not considering mystery elements. So those are what I call our pioneers. And one of our country-specific statistics, if we've got anyone on the call today from Sweden, bravo to you, because actually 23% in Sweden, as opposed to 17% of non-Swedish venues, are considering the value of mystery elements. So just something for you to take back to your management teams, to your leadership teams, is, you know, what can we do that can surprise our attendees? Now I'm going to go into that world of AI, and we're all getting immersed in AI in different ways. And the meetings industry certainly as a whole has been embracing it for the last 12 months. But we're interested very specifically in how venues are adopting the use of AI. And you will see here it's still quite embryonic, but the three areas that venues have told us in the research that they're using AI the most is in marketing, is in data analysis, and it's in revenue management. Further down the line, we can see where this innovation is going to come from and creativity as we start moving into the operational side of AI, which is guest services, food ordering, menu planning, food waste management. And believe you me, I can see this as clear as day. We will be seeing AI incorporated into all of those areas. As a matter of course, whether you're a large group or a single standalone venue, it will play a significant part. Now, venues are still catching up with AI, more so than meeting professionals actually, who are using it quite a lot in their meeting organization. But this year, I hope that IACC's introduction of its first report, which I put into the chat box again, a download to this report, which is AI for venue sales and marketing, will be followed up later this year with a second report, which is looking at those ones to the right, the guest services, menu planning, and food waste management. And we will be publishing another report with examples of how venues are incorporating it into their operational standards and services. So watch out for this. And if anyone's interested to share, who's on the call today and is already incorporating AI into the operation of the venue, I would love to hear from you directly, because we're right at the beginning of looking at all of those case studies. So now let's move into the second piece, which is a rule around meeting space room design. We know what that means. It's about the meeting room setup itself. It's about the decor. It's about whether it's got good elements for socializing and networking. It's not just an internal meeting room either. It's all the areas that meeting is taking place and needs to work and function and have the interconnectivity that will provide the attendee with the complete meeting environment. So it is the indoors, it is the outdoors, it is Wi-Fi and that technology, and of course it is about that how we need rooms and environments to both be flexible, but a new word that we're using this year is transformations. Can we transform rooms and environments so it has a very different feel in the future, as opposed to just having to move people around to give them a different environment? Quite a few words on this slide, but there's quite a lot to share in here as well. As we look at those key findings around meeting space and room design, one of our long-standing, very creative, innovative members from Sigtunahöjden Hotel in Sweden talks here extensively about all of the elements outside of the meeting room that form a part of a successful meeting at her venue. And if you have some of these environments and abilities to incorporate them, then you can go a long way to providing that sort of environment. But Lotta here feels, very, very firmly that it's a destination solution she's providing, and the local environment and the local residents and communities that play a part in that. And just to the right there as well, you can see venues, which is really encouraging that 71% of venues encourage connections with the natural world. And even if you're an urban conference, a located conference and meeting venue, you have the ability to bring the natural world into your meetings and into your environments. You don't have to be in a rural setting. But this is a large number, and it's getting larger and larger the more that we evaluate this over the years. And when we look at these sort of meeting space and room designs, I think it's really key for us to keep in mind that our clients that use us, first and foremost, they want everybody who can attend that meeting live to do so. And then they want access to those who can't. But in terms of really encouraging people for the former, if you have the premise that an in-person event should be very hard, if not impossible, to replicate in a digital environment, then that gives you the perfect foundation for getting as many people to attend that event live, because they just cannot recreate it online, and they must turn up, they must get involved. So it's really good to ask your meeting planners, what is it that we can do to assist your event being really successful, that will actually give those who are attending digitally that fear of missing out, so they turn up and they interact in the future. It's a great way of positioning your creativity. And of course, it's really important always that we recognize the incoming generations. I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But venues did tell us very clearly that they're adapting to the next generation's behavioral differences, which is so encouraging to see. And again, when I take this message to meeting planners, I ask that question very simply. The next event that you are going to be running, how confident are you that that venue is aware of those different incoming generations' preferences and styles compared to other venues? And have you hit the nail on the head in regards to the attendee profile and the generations that are coming to that meeting, or that you want to attract to that meeting? Venues are definitely prioritizing sustainability, and we've gone from that being a generalist statement to more of a specialist statement. Everybody's aware of the legislation that is coming in Europe in 2025, 2026, and even outside of Europe, in the Americas, in Australia, in Asia, in the Pacific. There is legislation that is following that's going to accelerate the way that we bring CSR into our meetings, events, and how we measure that. And venues definitely are producing better social responsibility and sustainability statements, because that's the best way to evaluate a venue through a social lens before you take the plunge and before you contract and commit to it. And on that front as well, I'll just give you another tool here. You can take a picture on your phone of the QR code, or visit the IACC website under its Better Tomorrow Corporate Social Responsibility section. But there's a Word document in there that you can download, which is components of a social checklist for business event venue proposals. For this group today, as venue operators, I highly recommend you download it and share it with your heads of department and your teams, and just ask the question, please highlight anything that on this list here that we're already doing. And when you get that back and create a master list, there's a really good chance that actually you'll impress yourselves in terms of just how much you're doing. It's just you haven't pulled it all together into one central resource. Of course, it will give you a list of the things you're not doing, and you can decide whether they're going to be important, because not everything will be, but whether they'll be important for you in the future. If you're a meeting planner, it's giving you very simple tools of you identifying what's important that a venue offers, giving you the wording to add that to your request for proposals. And remember, if you excel in this area and you're confident that you are better than your competitors, that you have stronger CSR credentials, why not give this to your best clients and say, build out your RFP, measure other venues like you would measure us, and give them a tool that can help them source better venues all over the world. The second section we'll look at is things like meeting space design. So still a very general statement, but venue leaders are saying that the demands and requirements around spaces have significantly changed over the last 5 years. Things like went from a period of less breakout rooms, but now there's more breakout rooms required for meetings than there were 3 years ago. So if you're looking at your space utilization and seeing this, and if you're not, you're seeing something different, that's fine. And I would love to hear, because different parts of the world or different meetings, will have different requirements. But generally, all this is saying to us in the top left-hand corner is we've got to keep our finger on the pulse, and particularly when we're designing out and investing for what our facilities are going to be in the next 2 years. The meeting room elements that are most important still, meeting room lighting, meeting room acoustics. I'm really pleased that these remain number 1 and number 2, because if you've been an attendee at an event with poor acoustics and poor lighting, and I was in one very recently where I actually had to walk out of the plenary session just because I couldn't hear the keynote speaker. The acoustics were that bad and the sound was that bad. So really important, and we shouldn't lose sight of it, and it should stay up there. But then also you can see close behind that the importance of having networking spaces outside of the meeting room. We'll talk a little bit now about the evolving workforce, and of course that reflects those that are now becoming a mature part of our workforce, which is our millennial staff, and then our incoming Gen Z staff as well. We're only going in one direction, and it won't surprise you to see the differences between 2020 and 2024 in terms of the venue workforce. 68% now of our staff sit within Gen Z or millennial. What is a concern, though, I think amongst many who have looked at this data, is that still less than 25% of Gen Z and millennials are holding leadership positions. Why is that important? Well, of course, if we have got to maintain, reflect, and match our services and facilities with that generation in terms of conference attendee and buyer, then it's important that we have the ability to recognize and adapt and bring the perspectives of those two generations into our decision making and our investments. And some of you I know have a strategy, and you have one eye on this in terms of your succession, in terms of your hiring strategies. We're joined today by the gentleman who actually gave us the thought behind this third one, Rick Huxon from Capella Hotel and Conference Centre, just outside of Eindhoven. And the work that Rick's doing with his staff includes things like, importantly, job rotations, giving experience in other areas, not because we're firefighting and we need to pull staff into other departments, far from it. It's because we want to enrich them and increase their scope of understanding of the complete operation and the complete business. Also, Rick, which I thought was really inspiring, looks at exchanges, staff exchanges, and that's actually with his clients, not between staff or not between other venues. So again, read Rick's full commentary on that and the full report to get those ideas. And I'm sure if any of you are interested to learn more about that, then you'll find Rick on LinkedIn as well. So thank you, Rick. Let us move now into culinary and beverage trends. But just before I do so, Kate, do we have any questions that have come up at all, or would anyone like to ask a question on the two first areas before we move into culinary and technology?
There's no questions in the chat yet, Mark.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's fine. Like I say, we'll leave some time at the end as well. Culinary and beverage trends, big part always of an evolving cycle of what venues offer, and a big part of the experience that we provide at venues. We'll be looking at everything from variety to creativity, of course, health and well-being, food waste, allergens, dietary preferences. We look at this really closely. Again, in this year's report, we're looking at what the venue operators are seeing, and we're comparing that with what meeting planners want. Interestingly, if you look at the first two bars along the top, going back to some of the earlier statements where budgets are really creating a difficult balance between quality and where money's been invested from the meeting planner perspective, there is an agreement that venues need to add greater value to offset that higher pricing. So that, there's a swing. There's 56% feeling, yeah, it's our role to provide value somewhere else. So how do we reduce our costs, increase our value, and maintain our pricing, as opposed to just keep putting the rates up and up, because that's hitting a pain point with our meeting planners. Here we can see 70% of venues are developing menus that use lower priced ingredients to support clients' budgets is taking place today. So those two mirror each other. They're saying the same thing, but you know, overall, it means that these venues, the IACC venues, are hearing the need for meeting planners to have more focus on creating value, not just putting rates up and making, you know, putting strain on the budget. As we look at other preferences as well, changes in the consumption of alcohol amongst delegates, it is coming down. 44% are saying that there is less consumption. And again, that's influenced by our incoming generations and them looking to different things to do during the evenings, particularly at conferences. So do you have a strategy for that? Do you have products to match where alcohol is not the preferred option that can still provide that service and that supply, but then also that revenue opportunity? And then another one here around the sustainable practices offered by venues as well. You can see big numbers here where they've got these programs and formal plans and certifications in place, 88, 83, 78%. So again, for meeting planners where this is really important, they should be seeing, if they're going to the right venues, particularly to IACC venues, they should be seeing positive responses to these requirements. And again, evolving and investing in the industry. Big areas that we look to in terms of food and beverage practices, the significance of areas like being able to demonstrate sustainable practices, being able to manage an increased number of requests for dietary requirements, dietary preferences, sourcing local food as well. Well, that one dropped off a little bit from last time, but these are something that if you're a seasoned leader and venue operator and owner, you will have heard it before, but it's staying right up there. There's some time where things come to maturity because we deliver against them. We're not. I mean, for dietary requests to still be increasing from the levels that they were before, which were really high, it, you know, is incredible. And people like Tracy Stuckrath at Thrive Meetings are, you know, now taking the evaluation of what venues are doing to the next level. So Tracy works in areas of auditing, not just making recommendations, but auditing that from a mystery attendee perspective, just like we have mystery sales inquiry taking place and have done for many years. So there's a lot more to be done there. And if it's an area of interest to you, do take a look at IACC's food area on the website. And Tracy's auditing solutions, and no, she is not just US based. She travels the world. In fact, she'll be with us for our Knowledge Festival in the UK this September as well for our European counterparts. But the report's got a lot more related to food trends as well in there. So I do encourage you, if that's an area of interest, to take a look at. And now we'll move into the area of technology. Meeting Room of the Future has always had technology at its heart. The visibility of how technology has evolved. We've talked about AI as one area, but there's so many other areas as well. And it's not just about audiovisual. It is about IT. It is about cybersecurity. It is about virtual attendee presence and how we get to do that in sometimes a way that's not even pre-booked. Somebody will come at lunchtime and say, I have 10 people we want to join the meeting this afternoon. They're in Denmark. Our meeting is in Chicago. How can we patch them in and get them involved? No notice. And venues need to be able to respond to that immediate request in this area, just like they used to when asked for another LCD screen or flip chart or data projector. Remote participants access remains important today. Last year, meeting planners told us that was the case. This year, venue operators concur 100% and are seeing it happen. So it's not waning. It hasn't gone away because we can meet back in person. It remains a core part of what I term a digitally live meeting, because it's not about it being virtual meeting or a live meeting. It's about it being a digitally charged live meeting. And that's the environment we live in today. Interestingly, for those of you who represent non-residential venues versus residential venues, the wireless screen sharing, LED screens, computers, digital signage are essential, even more so in those environments. We're not sure why. A meeting is a meeting, but we're going to delve into that a little bit more throughout the year to see if we can understand why those differences take place. And digital signage is something that's been around a little while to various levels, but it's more important today to meeting planners. Again, that's what you're telling us as venues. I thought I'd capture and just share with you actually where we used it in our event here. And this was back in 2019. So we're going back now 5 years, when the 2 digital signs that you see on the entrance to IACC Meeting Room of the Future showcase there were like 2 large LCD panels. They were controlled by a laptop at the back. We could update our program at different points, put our sponsor information on, have it scrolling. We actually could use them as like totem poles to be able to convey different information or bring different themes or colors through for different times of the day. From when we're having a meeting in the day, we could change the color scheme using these to when we're having a drinks reception at the end of the afternoon and soften things up. So digital signage is evolving. The prices continue to come down, and it's a really important component from a sustainability perspective as well, of course. And we'll head into our penultimate slide here, sticking on the theme of technology. Let's look a little bit at Wi-Fi now. So 60% of venues are offering over 500 megabits per second of wireless speeds in meeting rooms. That's up from 54% in 2020. We continue to go in the direction we'd expect, more and more bandwidth as we use more and more bandwidth. This isn't a sign of good or bad. We know there's so many other elements to providing a wireless infrastructure that can affect the attendee experience, but it's one of the measures, and we're seeing the industry and IACC venues moving in that direction. A significant 37% of those 170 venues are anticipating investment in the internet in the next 12 months as well. It was 44% back in 2020 when venues were asked that question. So still a high amount, maybe slightly less. As we look to differences over continents, Europe led with 83%, as they said that they felt they had sufficient bandwidth to meet the immediate future needs, whereas the Americas felt that 78% of them felt the same way. And interesting, when we look back, Europe invested more in the last 2 years. So that's maybe why they're a little bit more confident that they've got the bandwidth to meet the next couple of years ahead. So there is a definite link there. And then I'll take an example from one of the IACC partners, Convene, who operate venues in London, in the UK, from within our membership. James Frank is here, just explaining how he's going one step further to not only investing in the AV equipment, but to execute a digital strategy, but also looking at non-conventional partnerships like the one that we highlighted here with an organization called Bizaboo, who are a digital site creation and hosting platform. And again, this is not for big events of 500, 5,000 people. This is for events of 20, 50. These platforms have become a very, very affordable way of doing it. So encourage everyone to come back on camera now. Thank you for letting me share some of the highlights of the report. I'd very happily open up to any questions that you've got, anything you have to share that you're seeing yourself, any differences, any things that didn't look as you would expect them to be because you're experiencing something else. Please go ahead, and looking forward to any questions at this point. Would help if I put myself back on camera. There we go. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like we've got any questions, Kate. So we have shared those links. That's great. I know you want to talk a little bit about the next IACC session that we've got, but really thrilled that you could join me today. Appreciate the time. Thank you for investing in IACC and our community. And Kate, I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Mark. Just a reminder that I will send you all the recording from today, which will reach you tomorrow. For those who want to join our next webinar, it is on the 26th of June this month, and it's looking at prospecting essentials to fill your pipeline. And that's with our famous Kim Pung from Master Connection Associates. So I do encourage you to join that one. They are always a very good interactive session. So I wish you all a very good rest of your day. You've got 2 minutes left. Thanks, Mark. You get a quick cup of tea before your next calls. Take care, everyone. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of the week. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.